Oh my God.
Well, we're back again. Back again. Unfortunate, perhaps one might call it. I call it clockwork. I call it
I,
the sands of time.
so, two items of note here. One, I didn't realize the double entendre you had going between the background and the podcast name for today.
Mm-hmm.
Second, I didn't realize that there was anyone with a hairline further back than LeBron's, and I'm really happy to know the answer to that question.
Uh, so you like what I've done with
That's a word for it.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was good. I thought it was nice. I
I
mean,
mean, nice is an interpretation.
can
I
you
will say though, I have very fond memories of that 32 Tide Pontiac growing up.
can you describe it for our audio only listeners who might be listening to this via podcast?
Where to begin? So for the audio only listeners, first of all, I want to congratulate you for not having to stare at Thomas' face for an hour and a half.
Good choice.
Uh, the second thing I'd like to congratulate you on is not having to look at the current background of the stream,
Which is
which is various pictures of former NASCAR driver uh, Ricky Craven, who drove the Tide Pontiac at the turn of the century in myriad poses. I mean, really, it's something.
oh
It's
my
definitely
god.
something.
It's too good. And this. I've really outdone myself this time.
Would would you describe my description as Attenborough-esque or?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I'll take it. I'll
Hey,
take it.
this is gonna be terrible for the only listeners only. But could you try making Ricky Craven faces each one? Ready? Okay, we're,
Okay,
we're gonna
I
do
guess guide me through your
we're
process.
gonna do top right. Ready? We're both gonna
Top
do it.
right,
Ready? Okay. Pretty good. Let's see top,
top.
and then bottom. Crushed it. Crushed it. Man, the listeners are loving that. Loving that.
I can't believe I allowed myself to be talked into doing this shit every week.
Me neither. Let's actually talk about something important. Or yeah, actually,
Do we
these
ever
things.
talk about anything
These,
important?
well,
Just for the record.
these things are a lot more important than I don't know me. Uh, as
It's
you,
at least as important as the tire model.
yeah. Well, anything is. I don't know. Your bathroom schedule probably is as important as talking about. Um, so last week, do you remember we talked about Noah Sweet, nicknamed Lefty? Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh, he was he did the Pride ally Jimmy Johnson scheme and
Yes,
was bullied on the internet, and
because
I think
people are uniformly terrible.
stupid. But today, Lefty got a little voice call, a little video call with Jimmy Johnson himself.
Did he really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
I'm very happy for him.
yeah.
That's
It's really
excellent.
cool. I was impressed. That's pretty rad and worthwhile.
I think it's pretty cool of Jimmy as well to reach out. I mean, I
Hell yeah.
think over the last 2 decades, really, that he's been racing, he's never struck me as a bad guy, and I think that I'm sure that it meant a lot to Lefty to be able to talk to Jimmy, especially after spending all that time on that paint.
Mm-hmm. Um. Okay. What else do we have here? Oh, I know. A certain somebody from Porsche Esports Super Cup has been suspended, Manny.
I'm just saying, you heard it here first. 7 days before, well, 5 days before it happened.
Mm-hmm. Max Benecke has been suspended for the next Super Cup race.
Yeah, I'd say that on the balance of things, it was probably as strong as they were willing to act in terms of sanctioning him. Though I'm sure that if a repeat incident occurs, they will be maybe not as kind. I think based on our review of the two incidents last week, a 1 week suspension, functionally speaking, is kind.
Well, I would agree. And as much as I think our opinion matters, being both highly informed and highly intelligent individuals, not to mention handsome, like Ricky
I
Craven.
mean, say no more.
That's right.
Except the hat. We need to work on your hat, Tom.
I didn't want to do up my hair today. Give me a break. I didn't want to look like Ricky Craven.
I mean, this is the perfect time to look like Ricky Craven. It's an homage.
You could barely tell if I did have my hair up. If I wasn't wearing my hat, you couldn't tell which was the still picture if I sat real still.
You know what it reminds me of when you don't have your hat? Josh Ohm, the lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age. That's what I'm frequently reminded of seeing you hat free.
Don't know if I care for that. You know, I really
Queens of the Stone Age is incredible, but I digress.
decent band. You know, I really screwed up how our has our names in little text by our head boxes. I really should have put Ricky Craven, Ricky Craven, Ricky Craven by all its photos. That'd have been pretty good.
Or Abbas. I mean, that's a meme we'll have to get into one day. But
oh my god, I cannot wait for that day. Bring me that day. Bring it faster.
Maybe a good Christmas special
as I was
for
saying,
the folks at home.
as I was saying, as important as our opinions are, and we agree with this ruling. I asked both Brian Lockwood and Jamie Fluke, Porsche Sports Cup drivers, on what they thought, and Jamie was concise and straightforward, which is what we love about the man. He said, and I quote, "the correct decision."
I mean, what more can really be said there?
Brian Lockwood said, considering the additional throttle input before the incident at NERB, I think he's lucky it's just a one race suspension.
I think Jamie and Brian are very reasonable people with very good takes on the situation.
I would agree. I mean, it's. I think if they wouldn't have done anything, that would have set a very poor precedent.
Absolutely. And I think that Jamie and Brian, in about a dozen words, have done what it took us roughly 25 minutes to achieve. So very proud of them. It's obvious that they're not just fast on the track, they're fast off the track as well.
It took Jamie 3 words.
It's incredible.
He wrote me 3 words on the subject. And
I feel like I mean that's purple sectors the whole lap right there.
Well, it's funny because he's usually kind of, I don't know,
verbose,
fairly talkative, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I just say, "Hey, man, can you give me a quick quote on this?" And he sent back 3 words, and I said, "Perfect."
Say no more, fam. We got
done.
this.
Done. Don't type anything else. Call it. We do have Keegan coming on in about 5 minutes. And
very
you know,
excited.
I should lead with these things. I should lead with.
We should probably in terms of structure. Yeah, in terms of structure, we should probably at the beginning brief overview of the topics.
Yep.
But I also feel like people don't come here for structure. So if they come here at all. So
how many people do you think will either bring up the stream or bring this up to YouTube and see 3 pictures of Ricky Craven and immediately turn this off?
Counterpoint, if there was ever a time they were going to subscribe, today is that day. Because that's a Gen 4 Pontiac, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be. I think
I mean that's the sacred cow. You've led with a Gen 4.
doesn't get any better.
I mean, your front page on NASCAR Reddit.
Let's just quick talk about the bottom split. I mean F1 race.
Yeah. So, second split, Formula Renault 2.0 today at Mugello. Really impressive. Uh, I think the only things of note here are we've gone from having no red flags in close to a decade, I think. I could be wrong, but it felt like a really long time. To we've had 3 in 2 weeks. So really, really impressive Italian campaign for our friends at Liberty Media and Formula One. I think beyond that, Mercedes won too. I mean, kind of boring. Very
I mean,
excited for Alex Albon to get his first podium after having 2 of them stolen by Lewis in the last year.
well,
So really excited for him.
now honestly, the whole race wasn't worth talking about, other than the 2 completely botched starts.
The only other thing of note is, I believe it was pretty universal that drivers thoroughly enjoyed driving the track. It was just kind of a shit race otherwise. I saw an onboard of Hamilton, and there was one of the downhill right-handers that he was pulling almost a little over 5 Gs through. And I mean, it's a testament to the level of fitness and just how fast these cars are. Honestly, I think too fast to make the circuit good. When you look at the highlights of the lower formulas, as well as any sports car racing that's taken place in Mugello, the track's excellent. But I think the
Always
cars
has
are,
been.
yeah, it's just bad comment.
I pull a 1G in my rig at all times.
So do I, man.
You impressed?
Yeah, I think I'm pulling 1.2 when I'm sitting in it, but other than that,
I don't think you're mathing that right. Let's give me a
the
quick.
act of descending into the chair.
Oh, yeah, stopping. Sure, that could be. Give me some quick week 14 hits here. I want some hot takes. Keep it hot and fiery before Keegan hops on the call here.
For Formula One?
No, just iRacing week 14, Manny. You've been living it up. You've been
You're only
farming.
giving me a minute for week 14 hot takes?
We'll come. We can come around. Maybe Keegan's been racing week 14, although I really doubt it.
Okay, all right. So, most important hot take, the racing in week 14 Porsche Cup has been among the best that I've done in my time on the service. While the strength of fields haven't been particularly high, the racing, generally speaking, has been among the cleanest I've ever been a part of. And I've had some very good back and forths with drivers throughout the week. I'm also up like 450 points in iRating.
Oh my
So,
god.
and I've gained SR this week as well. So take all of your hot week 13 takes and throw them in the trash. Week
Jesus.
week 13 is awesome.
So are you at 3K yet? Probably
So
close.
I have 150 points to go to hit 3K for the first time on
Okay.
road. Which means I'm in for a long night after this podcast.
Oh my god. I look out for this guy. Anyone, if you're racing later, do not get in this man's way.
Yeah, I'm
He'll
only
put you
there
right in
for
the
SR
fence.
though.
That's not true. The opposite. I did some Mazda today at the Roval.
And you're calling me a farmer? Would you like to explain to our audience why you chose today of all days to do a race at the
well,
Roval?
because I had a bunch of practice there, which we'll talk about later.
Okay.
But at one point I was car 6, so you can only accuse me so much. I was car 1 at one point, but that was when I raced at like 9 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. So that's like peak farming right there.
Are you 4K yet on road?
No, 3.8.
Junk.
Yeah, complete trash. I agree. Just
You're
like,
not even four. You're not even 4.4. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I truly am a terrible driver.
It's okay. I still love you, Tom.
Barely.
Eh, maybe more than Jeff.
It's fine. Well, Jeff hates me, so ever since I ran GT4 with a gold-plated bottom, as in rear end, he really
We're
hated
gonna.
that.
I mean, I would say let's pull a picture of it up for our audience, but honestly, the
No,
longer it goes unseen, the better.
no, that's not what I would say about it. But I do think that it's a limited edition kind of thing. So if you saw it, then you saw it. You're in. If you missed
And
it,
unfortunately, you can never unsee it. I regret having authorized it, but luckily we've moved forward from that.
there's actually a Ricky Craven diecast on the shelf now. It's not a Tide though. It's right
I have to say,
there,
I also love
right
the
there.
Scooby Doo one. It's excellent.
It's
The
so
Scooby
good.
Doo one is so good. No,
I
your
had
shelf game is very strong, and I'm proud of you.
I had one of these in 164th as a child, and when this thing came up local for sale, absolutely. I mean,
And
look at it; it's so
for our
stupid.
audio listeners, there is a limited edition Scooby Doo paint to support what I think was one of the animated movies coming out. In what year was that, Tom? 97, 98 for Scooby Doo?
I think this is a '96, but I'm not positive.
Anyway, so there was a limited edition Scooby Doo NASCAR, and it's absolutely awesome, and everyone should have one.
Well, it's Robert Presley really ran that thing for a while. You know that, right?
Huh?
So
No, I didn't.
I would never have a car that never raced, Manny. Come on, you know that. You should know that.
I actually have a really cool hat. I'll have to pull it at some point. Um, eventually it'll be on the rack behind me, but I have one of you're familiar of course with Fernando and his quinoa hats.
Fernando Alonso?
Yes, that's the one.
No. Quinoa?
Anyway,
Quinoa like the grain?
no, it's KIMOA.
What is that?
But anyway,
What is that?
it's a brand he has. I don't actually know what they do. It's kind of like Energy, where I've only seen it like discussed in memes and like on merchandise.
Hmm.
Uh, but anyway, so I have a hat from last year, Zindy 500, except that hat shouldn't exist because Alonso did not qualify for the Indy 500.
Yeah,
Rather.
seriously. So this would
So
have been
it's
printed
kind of neat.
before. This would have been printed before the qualifying. They would have like assumed that he was going to get in.
Correct, and I'm not 100% sure it was ever sold. So
You know, he should have. Uh, he should have, or more people should have ran this year. I was going to say he should have ran this year. He did run this year. You should have ran this year. Anyone should have ran this year. You could get in for free.
I mean, and we almost for sure would have finished higher than Sage Karam. So
Yikes. Yikes. That is harsh, man. Well, I actually, it's been weird calling it week 14. But overall, honestly, my week 14 racing's been pretty chill. I was very surprised at the
they've been
quality. It
fun,
seems good.
and the new cars are incredible, which I think we'll get into a little more later. But it's been a blast.
I haven't raced any of the new cars.
Oh my God, Tom.
Come on, I got tires. We got cars with new tires. You don't need new cars. New tires. Soon iRacing will have the ACC tire model with their corporate espionage. They've been getting closer and closer at cracking the code.
Oh man. Wow, there are a lot of memes we're gonna have to get into at some point. We might need to get into the ACC meme next episode.
What meme?
I mean, really, it's a creed. But anyway,
Well, when you have the best tire model, Manny,
and nothing else compares.
nothing else matters. I think that was a Stain song, or was that a Metallica song?
Definitely Metallica. I wouldn't tell Metallica that you thought they were Stained.
The same bands, right? Right.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Hopefully, we'll talk about Canadian music with Keegan.
Wait, is Keegan Canadian?
Yeah,
Oh, I had no idea. Today I learned.
really.
Yes.
You just assume because he's very good at NASCAR racing and iRacing that he's an American?
No, actually,
Are you sure?
because I know that there's at least one Finnish driver in the Coke series. Therefore, I would not be shocked.
Uh, Christian Chalner is from the UK. I don't know how many more
One of
internationals there are. I
the
don't think many.
one of the fastest oval guys I've raced. I think his name is Yuma Yao, but it's this Japanese guy who's like 5K oval.
Hmm.
Um, really quick driver.
There's the late model expert, like Satoru Ono, who's really good. He's also from Japan. And when he comes in my splits, I say, "Oh no, it's Ono," because he usually wins. You don't like that? That's fine. I didn't really care for it either.
It's okay. I mean, at this point, you should be used to disappointing me. So, what's a little more icing on the cake?
I think I try at this point, and I don't need to try, but I do.
Yeah, I mean, you seem to do a pretty good job of it on a day-to-day basis. I don't see any reason to improve or deteriorate from here, really.
Just riding the disappointment train.
Just vibing. Just vibing.
I describe that as most of my racing, most of my life, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, some would go as far as to call you the Brian Schoenberg of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge.
Not sure what that means.
You consistently make the field, but not necessarily to anyone's benefit.
Wow. Damn, that is cold. Okay.
I believe we have company finally. Thank God.
Excellent. Keegan, you got us?
Hey, you guys got me?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Keegan. Very nice to meet you. Welcome.
Hey, you too.
We were just talking about Canadian music. I don't know. I don't know if you're, we assume that Canadians only listen to exclusively Canadian music. Is that true?
Not for me.
Not for
Avril
Keegan.
Lavigne's all right.
Just all
But-
right? Shit.
But to confirm for the pod, do you or do you not have Avril Lavigne on vinyl?
Not on vinyl. It's on my YouTube playlist though.
Okay. That's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's acceptable.
Yeah. Actually, I don't have a record player. I'd love to, but yeah.
Oh, really? You gotta
my
get in
mom's
on
into
that.
that, but no.
I'm into that. You calling me old?
No, absolutely
Records-
not. You have good taste.
Okay.
Calling my mom old?
Records are impressively expensive, which I kind of wish I'd fully appreciated before buying a record player. But hindsight is 20/20.
Manny, because Keegan can't see the stream, at least I assume he can't see the stream, can you describe our background this evening?
Oh God. So if you're familiar with Ricky Craven, which
Oh,
you
he's
may or may
familiar.
not be after this week, there are. It's a Warhol-esque collage of various Ricky Craven faces and the beautiful 32 Tide Pontiac.
All I can see is your webcam right now, so
Uh,
not sure how I can swap to that.
I'm not sure if that's better or worse.
I'm gonna minimize it, I think.
No, I don't recommend it, but I'll send you a YouTube link after so you can at least get a little taste, a little
sure.
flavor. So this past week Coaxers race, I hate to call any race domination, but you led, I don't know, every laps after if you took the lead after pit stops, yeah.
Mhm. I
Uh,
think it was the last 150 something. So, that like on paper that's domination, but if you watched any of that race, you would know no, it wasn't domination. Um,
It could have been 151. I mean, that probably would have been domination.
you're
I think
close.
that's what it was, honestly, maybe 152. No, but my point was there is like a car width gap or car length gap between me and the guy in second the whole race, Michael Conti. So, it's domination when I'm in first and I lead that many laps and I'm riding off into the sunset with, a guy in second not even being able to see my bumper, let alone hit it. So, no, it wasn't domination, but
Or
I'm happy to lead a lot of those laps anyway.
taking the Zelensky line through the Daytona Roval, perhaps.
Yeah, I was looking for the Roval infield there at Darlington, but I don't think we have one.
Hmm. I might
No,
want to
but
pitch that.
Keegan,
That might be good.
it's been quite an incredible season for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've been happy with it. I, I've kind of noticed like I was looking through like stats for a lot of the Coke Series field and kind of comparing mine and looking at other guys who have done well in the series. And my biggest thing is the top fives. So I've gotten a lot of top fives this season, also last season. That's been my thing. It's just like consistently being at the front. I got 3 wins. It's good. It's not, the most that anyone's ever had at this point in the season. But yeah, I'm happy with how I'm doing. But it's really those top fives and the consistency that I'm really happy with.
Well, just the way the point system works. Points, 1 point all the way back through the field. The consistency is I'd say it's probably more important in the Coke point series than most real life series. Like if you look at like F1 for example, like a win compared to sixth, the ratio is quite different.
Right. Yeah, they're trying to make it a little bit more important to win, obviously, with giving more points towards first place. Plus, we get like 3 bonus points, I think, to start the playoffs. Honestly, they got to do a better job at keeping the rules updated because I have no idea if we're getting 3 points or not per win. But it was like that the last 2 seasons, so I assume it hasn't changed.
I guess you'll find out next race week, and depending on where you are in the standings going in, you'll know if it was successful or not.
Exactly. So, but anyway, uh, wins still matter a lot. Plus, that's no one really remembers who finished. There, pop quiz, who got sixth last race?
I have no
Oddingzer?
idea.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
really?
toss
Well,
that.
I
That
have no
might be a
idea.
good. That might be a good
I
guess.
have no idea. I'm just throwing a name out.
Odger got third, I think. But yeah, like you were talking about P6 and F1, and just like in F1 and in NASCAR, it really doesn't matter much, like getting sixth. So
It was Lando today, so it semi-mattered.
Wow.
true. Yeah, I just watched it. I watched the replay of it only a few hours ago, and I couldn't tell you who got sixth.
It was. We talked about it a little bit earlier, just how much of a shit show the starts were, and it was straight up second split. Manny
Yeah,
called
the
it
whole
second split.
accordion.
I
Formula
was
Renault
ready for
2.0.
Jordan Wirth to start commentating on
Oh
the
my
podium.
god.
It was incredible.
Yeah, it was mainly just the like the whole group in the mid pack between like sixth on back to 12th. It's like they all just left a huge gap to time the start in the Formula One race, and
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
like the top five were all really close together, but there's like a huge run that they all had, and Bottas left it to the last minute, so they all had to break, and it was kind of inevitable what happened after that.
That I've never seen something like that happen in iRacing though. So ever.
Yeah, it's happened like we have a rule in the Coke series, and even like it's a new. I think it's a really weird rule, but um, Tyler Hudson and Nim, I guess, like back a couple years ago, kind of made it so if you're faster than the leader when the green flag comes out, then it's your fault if you cause a wreck or something, or like plow into people.
Hmm.
So
So they're looking at data
yeah,
for that, or just by eye? Do you know?
you'd look at the replay and see like if the green flag came out and you were faster than the leader, or
Mm,
maybe even like at any point before the leader started. It's kind of weird, like because like no matter what, there's always going to be like a closing up of the field
Of course. Yeah.
leading up. So that's why I think it's a really bad rule, but it just gives them the ability to call a wreck on somebody for laying back too much, I
mm.
guess.
That's
So, like,
interesting.
we're not supposed to lay back. People do a little bit because, if there's a car length gap between everybody, and then right before the leader goes, there's a quarter car length gap between everybody. Well, that's like the back half of the field just gained like 20 car lengths on the leader. So they have to be going faster. So yeah, it's what happens. It just happened a lot worse in Formula One today because everyone was trying to get that huge run and there's no rules against it.
And Keegan, I don't know if you, I don't immediately recall if you participated in the Firecracker 400 qualifiers in July.
I did not.
Yes, but if you watched any of the broadcasts over the course of the qualification period, that's exactly what today reminded me of, was the crazy accordion crashes that you would end up with when you're told not to pass people before the line.
Mhm. Yeah, well, Formula One needs to have some sort of rule where uh, yeah, I don't even know what do you guys think the rule should be? Like, how do you prevent that from happening? Like, they have to leave a certain gap to the guy ahead of them.
Well,
I feel like the best solution is really for Formula One just to switch to the '87 Ford and the '87 Chevrolet Monte Carlo.
uh,
Might make the racing better, I
The
uh,
guess,
racing
right?
will the racing will be more engaging if nothing else.
well, I think really though they got to stop the. Here's what they do. Here, you know what? We're gonna take a very iRacing approach here. Uh, Here's the deal, right? So a lot of the problem was the field was still swerving, and you can't pass board lines, so they're trying to get heat in the tires, right? So I think what Formula One really needs to do is one, hire Tyler Hudson, and two, make it so you can't warm up the tires before the green flag. Like they just whatever tire model they're using, they need to update it. Maybe to ACCs, I'm unclear, but something.
We still
Uh,
talking about the same racing series?
uh, I do want to get into setup talk and like the whole lead into Richmond. I do. I was kind of thinking about this. It is in a Coke race. Is it safer um, at the front? If you're in the top 10, at the top 5, is it actually safer? Do you think if you being up there more often has led to a more consistent finish?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I had a lot of criticism last year because we ran setups that were like really bad to start the run and then they were really good at the end of the run. And I had the fastest car after lap 20 pretty much every single race last year, but I got 2 wins. And that wasn't down to luck, it was just because there's a lot of cautions in the races normally and it's not going to go green the whole time. So, but I still ran those setups because it kept me in the top 10 or the top 5 and I just never crashed or very rarely crashed. So, yeah, that's a huge part of the success and consistency. Like you see, I think it was 2015, I guess, the Ray versus PJ battle. They had like an average finish of third through the year or something
Wow.
ridiculous like
Which
that.
is just insane.
Right. And that's a product of them having amazing setups and amazing driver skill to always be running up front. And, you're not getting in anybody else's crashes if nobody's ahead of you. So,
True. True. Yeah, that's interesting. And your average finish has really shown this year, I think, just having a good car. You seem to qualify pretty well, too. Maybe not always right at the front of the field, but consistently, I feel like I never really see you qualifying in 30th.
yeah, I really like hot lapping. Like I've always felt like that was one of my strengths. So I don't really make a huge mistake often. I don't mess up my lap and finish or start 30th, like you said. We missed the setup a couple times this year and had to start 20th or something. But whenever we put the effort in and hit the setup where we should, I always have a shot at pole. Last year was better for our qualifying setups, but this year it's been okay still, and I think the second best starting average. So, that's a huge part too. And you also got to think like the people at the front of the grid, um, they don't want to race really hard because they're where they want to be already,
Of
and
course, yeah.
they're they got more to fall. So everyone races nicer at the front, and then everyone it's just a bee's nest in the back. Like I don't race back there very often, but like when I do, I'm kind of out of my element because I'm not used to it. And like they race so much more aggressively, and you have to as well.
Hmm.
Now, one question I would have for you, Keegan, and you kind of touched upon it briefly with talking about Darlington and having to hold that gap for what turned out to be roughly 150 laps. I mean, that kind of sustained pressure for how long is a lap at Darlington? Like 30 seconds?
Yeah, I think we were doing 28s or something like that.
Yeah. So when you're looking at holding that gap and just managing, the car for over an hour, with functionally speaking no respite. What goes into, I guess, your approach to those situations? I know I myself, frequently when I find myself in high pressure situations like that for more than 5 laps, I feel myself start to slip because I'm starting, my attention naturally drifts to looking in my mirrors, seeing where the car is, where I need to position myself.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I always was when I first started too. It took me a long time to get out of that. It all comes with like your general skill level and comfort in the car. Like if there's a lot of little mistakes you can make here and there, even by yourself, whenever your attention drifts away, then you can make those mistakes easier and sometimes they're worse too. So like if it can all be instead of having to think about like focusing really hard on a corner all the time just to make it, instead of that, it could be, all subconscious and you can just do it naturally. Then you don't make the mistakes because you have some attention you can give to the guy behind you. So that's kind of how it is. Like if you get it to the point where you're just driving the car and you don't have to think about it, you don't really make the mistakes anymore. Also, I've done, 50 Coke races now, I think, or like 40 something. Um, I've been in this pressure situation many times, and especially compared to the end of last year, racing for the championship, that was nothing. So, no nerves, no extra, uh, I don't know, extra pressure. I guess it was just kind of another race for me, and I let the emotions come after the race is over.
I think I need to take some of those tips. I get nervous in a 2.3K SOF C Open, uh, starting from P3. Uh,
And that's the thing. I used to get way more nervous for race wins and racing for the wins in my first couple of years on iRacing than I do in the Coke Series now racing for money. Like it's weird how it's more about just the race and the win. That's the frustrating or not frustrating, but like scary part and the
mm,
part that gets you anxious more than money and stuff.
stuff coming
You
on
know,
coming on
trying to
the
please other people.
coming on the most high profile podcast, most high profile meme podcast dedicated to iRacing. That has to cover it. That I think we're safe there. Can we talk a little bit about the setup process or your setup process? And if you want to use Richmond as an example, if you think that would be a good example on, I think maybe we'll just talk about your process in the time leading up, and then also how that would relate to someone who is probably has, a fraction of that time to spend.
Yeah, so it's wherever you want to start with this, I guess. Like you can start at the very bottom, like learning how to work on the setups and stuff, and that whole process takes you a long time to slowly build up the knowledge of what to do. I'll tell you a little story on my the, f- this was probably the first time that I felt like I made a really good setup, something that was really competitive, and it was like the start of 2015 or late 2014 or something. Um, and it was at Richmond, and I just kind of had the revelation, hey, this car is completely aerodynamically dependent. Let's make a setup that's completely dependent on a short track, right? Which is kind of weird. Like you think, okay, short tracks, it's all about mechanical grip and stuff. Well, I just
Yeah.
kind of threw that out the window. And I was like, okay, let's just pretend this is a big track again and get this splitter as sealed as I can possibly get it, get the rear end placed exactly at the level where it should be, wherever that was at the time, because that kind of changes like with how they have the aero maps. But so what I did, okay, this is a super smooth track. I don't really need any bump absorption or anything, so I just put the stiffest possible springs all around the car, got the car slammed as low as it could possibly be. There was like the only thing moving in that car was the tires deflecting, right? The suspension didn't move because it was 10,000 pound per inch tires in the Cup car, or sorry, 10,000 pound per inch springs. So the only thing that was deflecting was the tires, which was like half an inch or an inch. So anyway, I ended up getting that thing really nice. The last thing I even considered was the balance of the car. Like I didn't care about that until I got this thing perfectly sealed. And it was fast. And Andrew Fayash ended up winning the Pro Series race. I think it was in 2015 on that style of a setup that we actually made before that. And yeah, he won his first Pro Series race. That was kind of like the first validation for me as a setup builder, and my whole team that I was with at the time, which was called BBH, I think. We were all just learning together. Me and Matt Bontempi worked on that setup together, and yeah, it was kind of like the start of everything, where kind of realized, hey, I can build a setup if I just kind of throw my preconceptions out the window and just chase an idea, I guess. So that's kind of what setup building is. It's chasing ideas and seeing if they work, or if they don't, then don't pursue them.
That's an interesting way to put it. I think because a lot of times guys would come at it on using, I don't know. I don't want to say they're coming from a box. They're like stuck in, this setup box or the real life box or this should work box. But the way you describe it is almost different than the way I've heard others talk about, well, we do this for this, and we know this is this, and we want to do, X here and Y here, and I know that the real car does this, and whereas you said, I know it's a short track, but screw it, I want the car sealed.
Yep, and it worked really well because it was such a smooth track too. But like you were saying, having that sort of formulaic approach, it gets you to the point where you can set up a car and make it drive nice. But if you want to have an advantage over your competition, you need to kind of think outside the box, or at least understand it in a level of detail where you can get the last little bit out of it and beat your competition. So
And really, that
yeah,
sounds like it's as much about, based on what you're describing, it sounds like it's just as much about you logging laps and having that time to be able to make those, I guess, extrapolations as it is like clicking buttons to see what happens.
yeah, but you want to work on that in an efficient way too, right? You
Of
don't want to,
course.
if you spend 50 hours at it and then it doesn't go the way you wanted it to, then that kind of will burn you out pretty quickly. So, I mean, I might spend, if I'm working hard at a setup, like the most I'll ever spend at a setup for a Coke Series race is 20 or 30 hours. And that's practice and everything, like doing laps, all that stuff. That's the most. And I'm sure a lot of people do more than that, making a setup for NIS,
And
right?
that's over a 2-week period roughly
Yeah,
between
two
races,
weeks
right?
normally. Yeah,
So
or
2 hours a day, more or less?
yeah, that's a good number. You don't want to burn yourself out at it. But the thing, like with me, I'll do it in big chunks. So I'll do like a
Got
six
it.
hour session, and then we'll take a day off. Um, it's not my whole life building setups on iRacing like
Just
anybody else's.
close, yeah.
So, it's whenever I get the time for it and I can sit down and
At least
really
20% of
focus.
the rest of the time, I'm sure, is spent replying to Tom on myriad things. So we appreciate your service to the cause.
Hmm. Yeah, you've answered some
I
questions for
would say
me,
that.
so. Uh, so would that be something you still do, like when you did Richmond, when you started it 2 weeks ago or whatever? Are you getting your aero package done first? Do you have a set that you started from? How did that
Well, I'm
how did
not
that
I'm not
work?
working on Richmond at all because we're not going there in the Coke series. But like, yeah. So what was your question though about like the procedure?
Uh, what would you have started from, I suppose?
Yeah. So like a baseline setup. It doesn't matter to me because like once you do this for long enough, like it can become really quick. Like the whole starting from a baseline is kind of it doesn't really mean anything because I can start off of a fixed setup and get to where I want as a baseline in 10 minutes. But if you want to start off of a baseline, you want to pick like a similar track. So if you don't have a Richmond setup already, maybe start off of Phoenix or Iowa or something. But again, this is kind of leading into that formulaic approach again, where you're getting stuck with one idea.
Yeah.
So it you should be asking yourself, okay, what should I do to find speed at this track? And if you want, you can start off of last week's setup at whatever track it was. You can start off of last year's setup at that track, Richmond. You can start off the fixed setup. It really doesn't matter. It's just, it might be easier to start off of a baseline that's close already, though. But, I think if you want to really get good at setup building, then you should start off the fixed.
Really?
And that's
Hmm.
interesting for me because, like the way I've looked at it in my very limited experience, I'd say I definitely yield more towards the formulaic approach. But to your credit, if I sit here and really think about it, the one or two times I've really been happy with a setup that I've made is because I tried something unconventional. Like instead of, let's say I'm trying to build or refine a setup for Le Mans, and I'm starting with the Monza package or modifying a Spa package. I'll go, oh, it drove really nice at this track. What if we start with this, and then drop wing and drop weight and see where we go. So that's, I think, a really good point, that don't let yourself be bogged down in just following a formula.
Exactly. And like if you're starting at like making a setup for Le Mans, the first thing I would do, like I don't really build road setups ever, but like just what I would jump into is finding, okay, how can I make this car as fast as humanly possible on the straightaways and
Yeah,
see,
I mean, you don't have to worry about steering when 60% of the track is on throttle. You
right?
just
Well,
have to
you,
be able
you
to
do
survive
have
the
to,
steering.
but you should start with the straightaways because it's mostly,
Absolutely.
yeah. But like not even just wing, right? Like you should start with wing. Okay, your lowest wing is the fastest on the straightaway, likely, but also like your rake, ride heights in general. See what cambers are fastest on the straightaway, caster, toe, springs, whatever. Just try to get that thing going in a straight line as fast as possible, and then see if you can get through the corners. Like, that's what I would start with. Um, Meanwhile, that approach won't work very well at, I don't know,
Tsukuba.
scuba. Yeah, yeah. Unless you really want to fly down that little 500-foot straightaway.
You never know.
But I'll give
You'll
you an
be the fastest
example.
person on that straightaway then.
Yeah,
That's
they're not
right.
passing you right there.
Uh,
But with Richmond, if you're following a formulaic approach at Richmond, it might not work too well because the biggest handling issue you normally have there is loose on exit, right?
Yeah.
But you're loose exit of turn two when the banking falls away, right? So I don't know if you guys or maybe people listening might think that the first thing you should do when you're loose on exit is to change the rear spring split. You know, that might be something you might work off of. So like stiffen up the right rear spring to loosen it, or
Right.
soften the right
Right.
rear spring to tighten it. You could also do the left rear, which will accomplish the same thing. So you could stiffen the left rear to tighten it up, or um, soften it up to loosen it. But that doesn't work exit of turn two at Richmond, and it's for a pretty complicated reason. And that kind of boils down to understanding what's actually happening with the car. So the reason you want to soften the right rear spring, for example, to tighten it up on exit, is because when the rear gets a load on it, like when you get on throttle, you're shifting weight onto that rear end. And if you have a stiffer left rear than right rear, it's actually increasing your cross weight when you shift the weight back.
Got
But
it.
exit of turn 2 at Richmond, that's where weight's coming off the rear because you're losing a bunch of banking, right? So it's kind of the opposite where you're losing load on the rear. So you want to do the opposite with the spring split. You actually want to tighten, or you want to stiffen the right rear spring to tighten the car on exit of turn 2. It's
And
completely
you would,
backwards.
yeah, and obviously with the inclination being to do, you know, the standard thing, that's interesting. I would never have thought of that.
No, I mean,
So that's just one example of like a lot of reasons why having that formulaic approach can kind of put you in the wrong direction. So it's more about the specific track, exactly what's happening to the car, where you're getting loose or tight. And, you know, above all, it's really about finding speed and what works for straight up speed, first of all. You know, the balance comes later.
I'm holding you both accountable for letting me, I think, refer to the Darlington Coke race as Richmond about 5 times until now.
I was wondering
Uh,
what that was about.
Oh my
I was
God.
content to allow you to live in your
I
hole.
think that it really adds to the whole vibe of the show. I think it added a little mystery, perhaps. That was good.
Well, I thought we were talking about NIS because isn't that where they are this week? I'm not even sure.
It is, yeah. But I would never talk
There we
about
go. See,
that.
that works.
I would
That's
never.
fine.
I would
And
never
I
talk
think
about
that's
that on purpose.
where RTP was this week, wasn't it? That might be why it's on your mind.
No, that was Martinsville.
Was it?
Yeah.
Let's just call it Richmond as well. That'll work.
Yeah, Richmond Jr. We'll go with that.
Pointy Richmond, and Darlington is weird shaped Richmond.
Yeah, the Ag Richmond.
Yeah, egg Richmond. That's good. That's
Drunk
good.
Richmond.
That's funny. Yeah, I did want to talk about the Darlington bit, but I think perhaps the Richmond fall off in turn 2 might have been more interesting. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, where the banking falls away, and the same sort of stuff's going on at Darlington, where especially exit of turn 2, like you get really squirrely exit of 2, and 4 honestly, where the banking kind of falls away. But there's so much banking at Darlington, and it lasts for so long through the corner that you can't like swap your idea of the spring rate because
Of course.
you're already on throttle for so long. It really affected the car all the way through the center and exit with the spring rate in the rear that time. So that's a track where it's more conventional.
More
Richmond's the exception.
We won't take up too much more time. I think I want to touch on. I don't know how much you follow with the Porsche stuff. I imagine you're at least fairly plugged into most of the World Championship stuff. I don't know if you saw that. Go ahead.
I'm on Coanda SimSport, so I'm always talking with Josh Rogers and Mitchell DeYoung about their what they're thinking, and yeah, I don't really participate too much. Like I'm not very good with that car, but Bobby Zelensky is. So of course I'm talking with him all the time. He's one of my best friends on iRacing, and talk with him every day. So I'm a fan of his and a fan of the series.
Before we get into Porsche Cup, I did want to touch on that. Your relationship with Bobby. What's it like? I mean, functionally speaking, I'd say you and Bobby, I'd say are, if not the heavy favorites, certainly favored to contend for the championship. What's it like racing, like you said, one of your best friends on the service week after week, for that grand prize at the end of the season?
Somehow we stay apart from each other, so so far it's been fine. I'm sure one of these days we'll hit each other and someone will get pissed off, but so far it's been fine. He's honestly probably the favorite for the championship if you could pick anybody of the 8, because he's almost a guaranteed lock for the final 4 as we go to the Charlotte Roval.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he knew what I was going.
Yeah, the Zelensky line works every time.
Yeah, he's
What
pretty
was
good
that?
at that.
Jumping over the curbs and stuff?
Yeah,
Or-
absolutely.
Okay.
I think
just,
Right.
just yelling cowabunga.
I think
Yeah,
he.
I don't know how he does that every lap without making a mistake. It's ridiculous.
I think in qualifying he jumps the wall between turn 1 and the oval section. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, the lap times would suggest it.
Some hacks here. I think that's a good segue, though, about what I wanted to ask about, because we saw Max Benecke get suspended a race. And I was kind of thinking about this and how in the Coke race, it seems that, at least from an outsider, who is certainly not talking to a lot of the guys, other than the occasional Discord, and occasionally I'll see some Coke guys in a race or whatever. But it seems like the community or the guys, the 40 guys in the Coke series seem tighter almost. Like it almost seems that it seems less likely that you'd have such a problem between two guys in the Coke series. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just more hidden. But we watched Max Maneka hit Josh 2 races in a row and then get suspended, which I think is probably on the more generous end of the possible punishment.
Yeah, I have a feeling the Max Manecki thing wasn't worse of a punishment because it wasn't completely clear cut.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like it sure looked like he did it on purpose, but we're not, they're not going to kick him out of the series for, indefinitely because he throttled up a little bit.
Well, he's really good, so he has
Might be a
very
point too.
very
Yeah.
good car control. So I'm just saying that if anyone could make it look like an accident, it would be like him or Rogers. But it's neither here nor there.
Well, I don't want to comment too much on
Yeah.
the
No,
whole
that's
Porsche
fine.
thing because the main reason is because like the only people I talk to about that stuff are my teammates. So, whatever opinion I would have is pretty much their private opinion.
It's
So
less about
Understood.
a question about the Porsche and more just about the Coke community.
Yep. Well, I totally agree though with that. It seems like there's a lot more rivalries and like inter-team rivalries in the Porsche series and road in general. Why that is, it's kind of weird. Like, is it a cultural thing? Is it the racecraft thing? Because like we have to race right beside each other all the time, right? So I guess it's kind of expected to have contact once in a while. So I guess people tend to let it go more. Um, you know, it, like geographically, most of those Porsche guys are all pretty close together because they're all in Europe. But it's a lot of different countries too, so it's a lot of different
Absolutely.
cultures, maybe. Um, I don't know. I really don't know what it is that makes people uh, not be able to stay away from rivalries too much.
It does seem that there's less turnover in the Coke series than the Porsche stuff. Like you see top Porsche guys, like even Rogers. I know he was in the GP series, but he wasn't such a factor as he is once they got in the Porsche. But you see guys come and go, whereas the Coke series seems like a lot of the guys have been either, even if they're not in Coke series, they've been a mainstay in that community at a very high level for a long time.
Yeah, and it kind of goes with that, like everyone in the Coke series community. That's where I was trying to go with the geographical area. Is like a lot of them are from not just the states, but they're from Charlotte, right? They know each
Mm-hmm.
other. There's probably 10 guys from Charlotte in the series or something ridiculous like that. So like everyone's known each other for so long. Everyone's friends. We've gone to events together. We went to the media day in Charlotte in January, and we all met each other. Like everyone went, or most people went, and yeah, I guess just more people are friends. I guess that's all I can say about the difference.
There's more technical alliances too, like you have a teammate, and then you also have a group that guys make setups with. So there's probably more opportunity for connections, whether unofficial or official, in the Coke series too. Because I mean, there's a couple of groups that are kind of large-ish, right? A number of
Yep.
guys.
Yeah, like Dead Zone's probably the
Yeah.
biggest, and um, Slip Angle, and then Michael Conti's group. I'm not sure what they're calling themselves now, but they each have like all I don't know 20 some guys probably all working together. Meanwhile, at least on the Coca-Cola side, like the NASCAR side and on Coanda, it's just us three plus the spotters, like me, Bobby, and Chris. Um, so, we're still a pretty big organization, but most of them are focused on the road side. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, even though I'm not affiliated with Dead Zone, like, I go in their team speak a lot and like play video games with them. Like, so that kind of happens too, where there's a little bit of crossover between groups that play other video games together with or just friends with in general. Like, uh, so I guess there's like little friendship links in that sense too. So there just isn't really much room for rivalries.
I really appreciated how when you said I play video games, implying that iRacing was not a video game. That was very well done. The social media
I'm
training
sure that'll be
is
very well
choice.
received.
Yeah, very good. If you want to plug, anything you want here, we won't take up any more of your time, but I really appreciate you chatting with us.
Oh, a plug? Well, I mean, I'm sure you've plugged the virtual racing school plenty of times, right? You better have.
Who? What?
Oh no.
Never heard of him.
I actually have a CSS sub, but
Wow.
no, I'm teasing.
Oh my god.
I love me some VRS.
Well, no, that's about. I'm not going to be a sponsor plugger today. That's okay.
Perfect. Manny will plug something later, just like whatever he's eating. So that's
and we'll
Appreciate it.
absolutely
sponsor
credit
copy.
it as Keegan Leahy approved. So thank.
All right, man.
All right. Yeah, I'll let you guys go. So thanks a lot for having me on, and best of luck with the rest of the podcast.
Thanks,
Keegan,
man.
pleasure meeting you. Best of luck in the championship.
Thanks.
Oh, Manny. Let me just get your Skype fixed. We only see half your head. Very, very nice to talk to Keegan. Oh, thank you. I'll fix it for you though. Don't worry. We don't have too
What a
much.
delightful guy.
Yeah, excellent. Let's see here. What else do we have to talk about, Manny? A couple things, I'm sure, right?
I mean, there's new cars. I feel like
Fix
that's
your head.
important, even though you can't offer very many opinions on it.
Please hit me up with the new cars.
All right, so Corvette C8R. I haven't looked at the BOP yet, but based on the fact that it drives as though the Ford GT had 50 more horsepower, I have a feeling it's going to be a very strong contender in its championships. Really lovely car to drive. Sounds terrible, just like the real car. So the authenticity of the service, I think, really came through. The most exciting car, at least for me, has to be the Dallara Piece 217, which will be replacing the HPD and LMP2 going forward. Car is phenomenal to drive. I think that if not the death knell of LMP1 on the service, I do think that we've seen cratering participation in LMP1 over the past few seasons, and I don't think that trend will be reversed with the introduction of this car to the service. I mean, it is stunning.
Did you see Bo Albert's video about the GTE BOP?
I have not. No.
He did think that the Corvette might be strong this season, so we'll see how that goes. It's interesting that we lost the BMW for Petit. I'm right in saying that. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I think
because it's not an IMSA anymore.
No, I think it's backwards, isn't it? The Ford was dropped from IMSA and then kept in ILMS.
You hold that thought. You just buy time here, buddy.
Yeah.
You talk.
I mean, it's one or the other. I know the BMW was dropped in one and the Ford was dropped in the other.
I'll figure it out. You tell him about the PAX deal, please.
Oh, so with PAX, which I think it's a pretty famous convention that goes on every year, isn't it?
Yes. You were right about BMW's in for Petit.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, before we get into PAX, that means that for maybe the first time in iRacing history, the field in GTLM is actually current. The BMW,
interesting.
we have Rahal Letterman Lanigan, Ferrari, Risi, Porsche, Core, when they're not furloughed due to unfortunate circumstances. And of course, we have Corvette with a factory effort. So
I hadn't considered this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the GTLM field. We've done it. At the death of GTLM, we have gotten it.
Yep, all 1 year before it goes completely under. Perfect. Completely falls apart, and I don't know. They'll just move to all new GT3. I'm convinced. By the way, I think it was last podcast, maybe 2 podcasts ago. No, that was Pancake. Last podcast when you said that GT3 wasn't a particularly expensive class. I heard on Radio Lamar, and they were talking about that it costs about twice as much to run a GTD program as it would an LMP2 in IMSA,
I would believe that. Yeah, I would believe
which
that.
is wild. I thought that was wild.
Well, if you think about it, though, I mean, there's uh, right now in IMSA, really, there's one chassis manufacturer, Orica, for the LMP2. It's a tried and tested program, spec engine, spec aero. You basically just put drivers in it and it goes. So when you look at it, even from that point of view, like there's not that many parts you can change or alter in the LMP2 formula. Whereas with GTD, there's maybe a larger degree of variability. I think in terms of the adjustments you can make and whatnot versus LMP2. So I could definitely see how it would be cheaper, but finding out it's half as expensive to run LMP2 as it is GTD, pretty surprising.
They said at least, which is wild. Okay, are you ready for PAX, or do you have more on new cars, Manny?
New cars, in summary, buy them both, love them,
Buy
embrace
them
them.
both. Excellent. Keegan also is telling me that slight apologies for being a couple minutes late. He had a lot of VRS emails.
It's tough being famous, I understand.
There was a slight telemetry logging issue with the new build, and he said there was a lot of emails about that. To which I said, yes, mine doesn't work either. Damn it. Anyway, the PAX thing that iRacing just announced. Yeah, see, I knew it as like PAX East, and I knew it as like a board gaming and like pen and paper RPG convention. That's what I always in a past life. That's what I was
Current
into.
life, let's be honest.
Yeah, and I didn't know that they had such a thing as PAX Arena, but they're doing the I think they're calling it the 10K Almost Pro Challenge, and it's only for U.S. and Americans and Canadians. So no Europeans in this, but it's the MX5 at the Roval, and there's the time attack competition to get in top 40. But the prize pool is pretty good. Intel's have some goodies in there, and it's
yeah, it was 10 grand, isn't it?
Yeah,
Prize pool?
10 grand, as well as like I think if you just qualify,
3
you
grand
get
to the winner?
Yeah, and you get like top 10 get Intel Mobo and a CPU, and then the top, if you just qualify in the top 40, they send you like a little prize package. And I mean
That's pretty cool.
they're doing a good job. Casey Kerwin right now is the fastest on the leaderboard, so I don't know if Keegan needs to get going, but looks like.
As a small aside, I would like to note for the record that Charlotte Roval is one of the 5 best tracks in the United States.
It's very good. It's very good, and I think the MX5 update is also choice. So I'm really enjoying lapping there.
It's a blast to drive.
I'm sitting 17th, Manny.
I'm proud of you. I need to get on it.
Everyone pray for me. Oh my God.
I have to hit 3K first, hopefully tonight, and then we'll go from there.
So we got PAX. We also have tomorrow night is the first night of the qualifying series for the sprint car World of Outlaws iRacing sprint car Morton Buildings. What the hell are they calling it now? Anyway, it's like Road to Pro, but for the dirt track sprint cars tomorrow night. And
That's the 410s, isn't it?
yeah, the 410s. I told Maynard, I'd promised Maynard I'd run it. Promised. So I have
I'm
to.
sure Maynard is very proud of you.
Yeah, he couldn't come on the show. I don't know if he's still recovering from another Saturday night race. He's never very. Always takes him a long time to wake up. On Sunday mornings after the Cup's on a Saturday night, and so I didn't want to bug him too much. But I was kind of disappointed he didn't come on the show. But we'll get him next week.
We miss Maynard dearly and look forward to his return.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Well, I'll tell you what, Manny. I think we're about out of time and about out of topics.
I mean, yeah, I don't really want to talk about Ricky Craven anymore, so I think we can leave it there.
Can I see the top right face again from you?
No.
Please?
The top right?
Top right. Oh, it was okay. It was okay at best. All right, let's get out of here. Do you have anything to plug? Whatever you're eating. Brought to you by Keegan.
I actually haven't been eating. I'd like to plug Gatorade Zero Glacier Freeze. Very delicious.
Very Canadian.
Very refreshing.
Very Canadian, if you ask me.
Yeah. Other than that, our beloved team, Mascari Autosport, praise be.
Praise be.
And I think that's pretty much it. And ACC for the best tire model in mankind.
The best sim on the planet. Next week, we have a review of another oval sim from you. Look forward to that. Can't wait. You've been trying that out.
I think I have to get the battery replaced on the cartridge.
No spoilers. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about PAX, hopefully. I look forward to putting...
Hopefully we'll both be in. I need to get my life together, but
yeah.
We'll see.
There's talk that Brian Lockwood might be on the show. Hopefully right after I put him in the fence, after we both race PAX on Saturday. Can't wait. Can't wait to talk to him about that. Hopefully he swears at me. All right, let's get out of here.
All right. A pleasure as always, Tom.
Indeed. That's been Maddie, Total Teen Move, Tolentino. I've been Tom Aramitis. Manny was here for SR, but he won't be tonight. All right.
Take it easy, everyone.